Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and do a Holly EFI Sniper on the Pontiac Firebird. We got a fuel pump, some fuel line, we got an air cleaner assembly, we got a fuel pump kit without return, got a bunch of line in it, we got a gauge display, we got a new throttle body, the sniper power distribution module, and we got a digital dashboard. And we're going to adapt this to our current intake. This is an Edelbrock to Sniper adapter. You know, we got some various gaskets, some small wiring, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, I just took this back on real quick for video purposes, but I took off the air filter. This went here, this went there, and this went there. It's a PCE valve and some vacuum lines. We're going to go ahead and remove those. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the fuel line, disconnect a couple electronics here like that, you know, just kind of clear everything up, disconnect the throttle body, etc, etc. Then we'll pull off this carburetor and move on to the next step. Alright, you can see I've gone ahead and laid everything out. We have our air cleaner kit here, we have our fuel line kit here, fuel pump there, and we have our wideband or narrowband or 2 sensor set up here. We've got our polished throttle body set up, and then we have some sort of electronic dash gauge with a memory card and some sort of way to mount it. We have a power distribution module, and we have a little wiring here and some seals and wires here. Nothing crazy. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Well, I was able to identify that the Edelbrock intake did not need the adapter. So we're going to go ahead and return this adapter. Now I'm going to go ahead and torque down my my Sniper to 81 inch-pounds on the 4 corners there. That's what it's calling for in the instructions. Alright, I got the throttle body on and torqued to spec 81 foot-pounds. Plugged in my vacuum lines. This one's supposed to go right here, but I'm missing a provision for it, so we're going to try and track that down. And then over here I have my throttle body. It's supposed to pull back here, so I think I'm going to need a different throttle body. Different, yeah, different everything. I actually found out that this port here is for Spark Advance, for distributors that have Spark Advance. And this hose actually needs to be rerouted around the back to here on this port. It's another vacuum port, same size as the other one. So that's a little bit different. So I ended up finding that this port I was talking about earlier that didn't have a PCB provision, yeah, they don't really seem to want it to be used for anything. And then I already have my vacuum for my brake booster going to another spot. So I'm going to utilize this port here on the back side next to all these electronic plugs. So we're going to use that for the PCB port. So now that I have my new PCB fitting over there, the current one just keeps popping out of here, so I'm just going to go ahead and shorten up this a little bit. Here's our vacuum advance. We ended up having a vacuum advance, so instead of just running that to the ignition port, we're going to run it to the dedicated timed vacuum advance port. And we're just going to block off this front one here, and then yeah, we'll just cut this real quick, nice and even, and then yeah, there we go. Hey Meta, stop recording. So this thing has a slightly different setup. You can see this is the gas pedal pulled all the way this way, just like a piece of all thread. So I'm going to run that in until this lines up with that center hole, and then I will put that on there with this bushing. And then this originally called for the pivot ball to be up here for the kickdown cable, but this is a little bit of a different setup, so I'm going to put the pivot ball right here, the kickdown cable, that way when it gets floored, you know, there's your transmission kickdown like that. So it's a little bit different, but it should work. I'm going to flip the spring over so it's not interfering so much on this side. That'll give us a little bit more clearance that we need. You can see now I can have the kickdown cable there and it's not rubbing with the spring at all. So there's that. And I don't know, I might have to change the adjustment of my kickdown cable to be a little bit more this way. I'm not too sure though. This is kind of a custom little bracket going on here. So we'll have to kind of figure it out slowly. Alright, so I swapped over my ball, and you can see at full actuation it is just the very end of the kickdown cable. And then I rotated this a little bit. I had to rotate the bolt a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left to make sure that my nylock was getting a good touch here and here. And I just barely compressed this little bushing a little bit so you can see it. It is moving freely. And yeah, there's our throttle body hookup. So this car has a returnless fuel system, and from what I understand there's a casted tube that goes from this fuel bowl to this fuel bowl. So realistically this will air bleed itself, so we can block off this one, and I'm going to use the provisionings from the old carburetor over here to block it off if the threads are the same, and to also run the very nice braided stainless steel line that we have, because this is what they sent me, and I feel like what's already existing is a lot nicer. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. So I ended up finding out that the block offs and provisionings that I have, they don't fit. So I need to adapt this to this so that this will be, you know, this will be somewhere out here. That's kind of ugly. Maybe I'll just, I don't know what I want to do. I have this oil, or this fuel pressure gauge that needs to go like right here or here. Maybe I can do an AN block off right here so that this reads fuel pressure right there. And then I'll just adapt one of those. So I'll adapt that fuel thing to this. So I have another one. Alright, so I did do some research and I found it's okay to run up to 65 PSI on this system with no return line. I went down to my local international fleet pride, and I got this block off there, the block off this, and screwed the gauge in here so you can see it right there. And then I got an adapter from the AN to the banjo for right here. It's about a whole $5. And now I get to keep this awesome stainless braided fuel line with the Edelbrock inline. And yeah, we're going to keep moving on and do some electrical and the fuel pump, and then welding an O2 sensor into the exhaust. Alright, so the current air cleaner there, it wouldn't clearance this and this, and then if I flipped the bowl upside down to run it, it was too tall for the hood. So in order to get one that's low enough to fit under the hood and narrow enough to not hit those, I had to come over here, and I found on Holly.com part number 120-401 in the chrome with red filter, just to go along with the build. They had other colors, but this is going to be, we're going to order this and get this coming overnight and get it adapted on there, and yeah, get this going. Yeah, there's the 3 different views there, or 4 or 5 different views. Yeah, that's what we're going to do for an air cleaner. So it came with an O2 sensor mount where you clamp it on, and I don't like that. I don't like the gasket. I don't like, you know, gaskets on exhaust, clamps on exhaust, you know, screw that. So I went ahead and I got a bung for it. We're gonna weld a bung to the exhaust, and you can pause the video and look at these instructions if you'd like, but we need to mount it as close to one single port as we can. So we're gonna, where the 2 headers V together there, I'm just gonna put it right afterward, and it says here it needs to be 10 degrees or more, so we're gonna try and angle it upward. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna get this car racked, and we'll look at the bottom and prospect out an area that we can use. My fancy O2 bung here, and you know, something in me makes me want to put it here, but I can't get a drill in here, and I don't want to take these headers off. I could just take off this 3-bolt mange and place it a you know, a few inches down the load here, and as long as we get this a good seal, then we won't be losing any of our AFR. Yeah. So I'm gonna weld. I'm gonna drop this pipe. I'm gonna drill a hole. I'm gonna put this right there. It's about at the 1 o'clock position, so it's pointing kind of up and down so that nothing can condense on it. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. We'll just keep on cruising. All right, so I got our O2 sensor bung welded in right here, and got it at the right angle. This may look a little aggressive as a pinch, but it's not. I mounted it to the pan right here to keep it out of the automatic shifter, and then I anchored it there. I anchored it right there, and then it goes up around the brake booster and then to the back of the carburetor. So it comes up right here where my finger's touching. Can't really see too well, I'm sure. And it goes up around, and I've used this factory clip that was here, and then it goes back. And I've tried to tuck it under all the distributor stuff here so it doesn't interfere with another gas pedal or anything. I'm going to tuck it just a little bit better. But yeah, that's the gist of it. It's pretty much pretty well plumbed now. Well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I took out this big plug here, and it was it lost a thread coming out, and it took a big old chunk out right there coming out. So I'm gonna tap it, clean up the threads real well. I'm gonna suck out. You can see a bunch of aluminum came off in there. I'm gonna suck that out of there with a turkey baster. Hopefully this intake manifold didn't just get ruined. That'll set me back a little bit on this project. So hopefully that's not how it's gonna go down. But yeah, this is where I plan to install my temp sensor. I'm gonna have to adapt it to this thread. So what came with the Sniper is this, and the British Standard pipe thread or something. It looks like a slightly tapered pipe thread. Anyway, had a little bit of a hiccup here, so I'm going to try and repair these threads and keep on chugging along, get an adapter from this thread to this thread, and we'll keep moving. Alright, so I grabbed a little claw, and I reached through here all the way to the back, and I grabbed the coolant temp sensor wire off the back of the throttle body there, and I pulled it under and I routed it to here. I just got a little adapter to go into the intake manifold and thread locked it. And then yeah, the temp sensor's ready to go. I got the M8 CAN bus wire, and it goes right here. And I tied it down. I ran it through a hole in the back of the firewall there. And so here I am at the firewall, at the hole that I shoved it through. I just put a grommet through. This will keep it from rubbing a hole into it. And now I'm going to route it up to my my display. Alright, so I ran my wire across here and across all that, and then I ran it into the plastic here. You can see it's right here going through. A little bit of a gap in the kick panels there. And then I ran it up here in this gap, and then there's a little bit of a broken trim piece here, so it's going to be a little bit exposed but not much, and then it runs there and then out the back and then to the back of the LCD screen there. And that's how you're going to run your bus. Alright, so I put the fuel pump assembly in. I gotta get myself a fuel line for right here. This one's just too old, too hard to put on. I'm gonna get a fresh one. I ran my ground to the stock tank ground, right? It's like right here somewhere for a chassis ground. And then I needed a fuel level sender wire, so it had the stock wire on it. So I hooked the purple wire into it. Now I gotta put my power, or my battery on, and my ground, or my relay and my battery on. I gotta drill a hole in the trunk here. I'm gonna poke it just on the other side right here and put a grommet on it and send these wires through.
So you might have to go kind of what we talked about.
Alright, so I ran my 2 fuel pump wires up through here, and you can see here's how I have them. Let me get my diagram off so I can read it to you. Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm just finishing my recording.
I need your help here in a second.
So I ran fuel pump negative to pin number 1 there. Fuel pump positive to pin number 1. Fuel pump negative to pin number 2. Fuel pump trigger is on number 3. And then I ran my Sniper switch plus to number 4. And we have the main power to number 5. And then we got Sniper main ground to number 8. And then we had a ground right there. It's connected to the battery. And power connected to the battery. And that's a switched positive that's coming off of my my distributor. And that's it. Alright, so I have this all wrapped up. I'm going to Velcro this here. I'll Velcro this to the wall, or maybe I'll get like a little wire nut and a loop and attach this right there. I've loomed it all. I've taped it all. I went to the rear by the fuel pump. I added some aluminum tape to all these wires and harnesses that I built here. And then I'm going to wrap this section of this too, just to make double sure that we're not getting too hot. But yeah, we're finding the end of this project real quickly. I'm about to get ready for the drive. Alright, so here we are. We're running at 60 PSI. It idled up, it idled back down, it learned its own idle. No fuel leaks. I'm going to do some fine tuning here in a bit, but we got success so far. My gauges are displaying over there. It's idling a little high. I did set the idle desired at 750, so I don't know why it's idling so high. Maybe it'll start working itself down. I probably need to calibrate the AFR sensor though. Maybe it's running off that. Maybe it thinks it's running too lean. Anyway, there we go. That's how you do a Sniper EFI on a Pontiac Firebird. All right, finally I've wrapped this with a heat wrap and put a clamp on it. I messed up one clamp, so I'm gonna have to chop that off. And I've heat taped all this. All right, so here we are. This is our first start. I'm moving it out. I don't have an air filter, so I can't take this car for a drive. But I gotta move it out of the shop, but I fired it right up. And it's doing great. It's teaching itself. It is idling a little high. You can definitely tell that it's trying to learn. It's like stuck in closed loop right now. But supposedly the AI will it'll learn it better after about an hour of driving. So once we get an air cleaner, I will take this thing up the mountain pass and do some tuning. It ought to be good.